Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hey, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about something that I know has been in the back of a lot of people's minds if they're thinking, hey, I like this copywriting thing. Maybe eventually I want to be a full-time freelance copywriter. Now, here's the thing. There are so many different ways that you could structure your copywriting career / business. You could be certainly a full-time freelance copywriter. You could do it part-time, whether you have a full-time job or you just are working part-time. You could do it on staff at an agency or at an internal agency, or you could contract and go into an office, but you're not on staff. And there are all kinds of different options. And Kate and I will tell you, we have happily moved through all of those different types of opportunities throughout our career.
Sometimes
So
at the same time.
sometimes at the same
Full-time
time.
and freelance. Yeah.
Yes. But so know that those are the options. Today, though, we are specifically going to talk about how to transition from a full-time job, whatever career you're working in now. If your goal is to become a full-time freelance copywriter, how to go about doing it. And Kate and I have both done that. Actually, I've done it multiple times. Okay, yeah, exactly. There was a period of time where I would get hired, leave, come back. It was a little crazy. Lots of going away parties. But the thing we should probably start out with is it's very doable. I think that's the first thing is people think, oh my gosh, is it possible to become a full-time freelance copywriter and make a good living and all that kind of stuff? It is absolutely possible. And we'll get into more how in just a moment. But if you're wondering, can you actually do this? Can you make money? Can you? Yes, absolutely. We have a ton of different episodes. We'll put them in the show notes. But first of all, yes, it is possible. So let's talk about how. Kate, what's one of your tips as people are starting to think about making that transition out?
I think the biggest thing to start with, and I think the biggest reason people kind of shy away from it because it feels so overwhelming, is you haven't dug into your financials and the numbers. So I think actually digging into everything when it comes to not only your income, but your expenses and what you actually need to make that transition to what you feel comfortable with the safety net. And we can talk more about that because both of us are not of the mind that jump and the net will appear. But also looking at, how much do you actually need to pay your bills, and how much, if you're going to, if you have benefits at a full-time job, how much do you need to pay for healthcare or dental or what other benefits you have going on at your full-time job. And so actually sitting down with a Google Doc, spreadsheet, Word doc, whatever you want to use, but writing out everything so you can actually visually look at it and start to demystify this very mysterious bridging this gap of going from full-time to freelance, which I think is just how do we start to untangle it? And I think that's the first place to start, is to get it all laid out.
And I would recommend actually opening up your checking account online or whatever account you use to pay things. And actually, I just went through this a couple of weeks ago because we're changing our HOA fees. And I thought, let me just get a handle on exactly what my monthly expenses are. And I guarantee there is a ton of stuff that is automatically taken out of your account that you're forgetting about. Yes, sometimes little entertainment things like Netflix, all kinds of subscriptions that you forget, they just show up at your door, and you forget that what happens is that money is automatically taken out of your account. You may also find some things that you go, you know what? I've been paying for this and I don't need it. So sit down as you're going through this and go back at least a couple of months and look through all of the things that are coming out of your account. And same thing, if you're the kind of person who uses credit cards a lot, getting the points, and that's great, but go look at your credit card statements and see what's coming out there and make sure that all of your regular expenditures are accounted for. And that includes too investments. If you have investments that automatically come out of your account, that was one of the ones that I have sent a certain amount every week to investments, and it was doesn't matter where I was, but I was in the kitchen when I went, oh my God, that represents hundreds of dollars every month that I didn't account for. Now, obviously I'm fine, but the more than fine, I'm very fortunate. But forgetting numbers like that can really skew what you think you need to make versus what you actually need to make. And I think another reason that getting these numbers down is so important is because, yes, goals are wonderful. And if your goal is like, I want to make $8,000 each month, or I want to have a six-figure year, anything like that, absolutely, totally possible, awesome. But there's a big difference between I'm dreaming of this number and knowing for a fact, okay, I'm dreaming of having having a six-figure year, something like that, versus going, okay, I've looked at my numbers and I know for a fact that I need to make at least $5,500 this month, or whatever your number is, because then you can work back from that, right? You can say, all right, I need to have this number of clients or this number of projects, or as you sign up with clients, or not sign up with, get clients sign up with you, you can start to see how this actually shakes out and how much work you need to put in order to reach that number.
Especially if you're thinking, oh, I might want to be part-time. Okay, how does the math work out? If I want to work part-time hours, how much can I really work part-time and make this work? Or do I need to work 75% of the time, 3/4 time, which is, I feel like it's like part-time, full-time. There's a whole in between. So looking at what is feasible for the time that you want to put into it.
Exactly. Well, and as you were saying, Kate, we talk about a lot, because I hear that piece of advice a lot, especially among like digital entrepreneurs. Leap and the net will appear. And that just makes me crazy. I don't know who's able to do that, like I don't even have a ton of responsibilities, but I have a mortgage, I have payments to make, God forbid I have a family and people depending on me. I do not want to leap and just hope a net is going to show up. So to that end, if you have a lot of financial responsibilities, not only, and we'll talk about building up client base in just a moment, but also build up a savings base. And we'll talk about pitching and all of that ramping up. But even if you quit your full-time job and you immediately are full with clients, which is certainly possible, even if you do that, it's still better to have some money in savings just in case, right? Wouldn't you rather go straight from full-time to freelance and have a full plate no matter what, and then have some cash if you ever want it, versus go from full-time to freelance, not have as many clients as you need, and realize that you don't have as much cash as you need to meet all of your financial obligations? So I would err on the side of putting away more money than you might need. I would say at least, and I don't say this because I don't want to scare you guys and be like, you're going to quit your job and you're not going to get any work, because we'll talk about in a second how to make sure that you have plenty of work. But I would put away at least 3 months worth of living expenses. And that's me. You may be someone who says, no,
I was
1 month is
6
enough.
months.
Yeah, exactly. It's
for me, but I'm very,
exactly.
It's very independent.
Yes, and you may, if you're someone who has fewer obligations, financial obligations, you may 1 month may be enough for you. It completely depends on you, but we would recommend putting some cash aside so it's there if you need it. And you may not need to use all of it. You may not need to use any of it.
Yeah.
But it's there just in case. Yeah. And maybe you don't need to use any of it, then you can use it for a vacation later on, whatever. Then you tricked yourself into saving money, so good for you. It's a win all around.
Win.
Win.
And it's funny I say 6 months, because to your point, like, it's so doable that you might leave your job. That's what I left my job and I wasn't as full-time as I wanted, but I was doing just fine, and I never had to tap into my safety net, which was very, very fortunate. But so it's so doable, but it makes me feel better to have a very large safety net. So I think it's whatever size safety net makes you feel confident.
Yeah, finances are very personal, so we can't give you the magic number, but figure out what makes you feel comfortable and sit with it. Think to yourself, if I had if I was going freelance and I had $1,000, if I had a month's worth of expenses in my savings account, how would that make me feel? If it makes you a little uncomfortable, maybe see how 2 months or 3 months makes you feel. Once you get to that level of, yeah, okay, I feel comfortable with that, then that's what you should start aiming for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about building up
Mm-hmm.
work
Yes.
whilst in work? Because
Yes.
I think that's what, again, we both recommend. We're not going to jump into straight freelance after not having started, I guess, at all during our full-time job. So I think the best place to start your freelance business is when you have a full-time job, when you have regular income coming in. And I know a lot of folks who have gone through this, there is that time of balancing, okay, I work 40 hours a week. Where do I fit in the freelance? And I think that's where taking an assessment of all of the Netflix shows you're watching at night and which ones can maybe be cut from your schedule.
Yeah.
And where are the weekends a good time for you? Is it after work that you want to put in some hours? What days can you keep time to yourself? Because that's also important, to not go all in where it feels like you are working around the clock and don't have any downtime for some Netflix shows.
Mm-hmm.
Keep one of your shows in the rotation.
Yeah. Yeah. We all go through times in our lives where we have to make one thing a priority, and it supersedes anything else, right? I think about it sometimes. I have friends who run marathons for whatever reason. No, I'm kidding. Good for them. But when you get to a certain point in your training and you have to get in like 10 mile runs on a regular basis, that's a lot of time, which means that they
Mm-hmm.
don't have time to, and especially too if they also have, a lot of them also have kids or and spouses, which means that they basically are just not available to go out with friends for a month or two, or they can't do other things that they were doing, and it's it's that kind of thing. It's not going to last for forever. If you are
Mm-hmm.
ramping up your freelance clients a bunch and you're still working full time, yeah, you're going to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
But better that than not be busy. It's not going to last for forever. There may be some time, and that's also a great time to practice and to figure out how you can best care for yourself. And when you get busy, figure out what techniques help you feel calm and help you feel centered. Because if you don't figure that out, then you're just going to make yourself crazy. I was going to say spin out of control, not necessarily that, but if you don't have an effective way to release that tension, then then that's something you have to learn anyway. But that, and again, that period of time is not going to last forever. And we'll talk in just a second about how long that period of time needs to last. But there should be a period of time as you are looking to get out of your full time job that you are ramping up your freelance clients, and therefore you're spending still 40 however many hours a week at your daytime job, and you are ramping up your freelance, and that's taking up probably a lot of your evening and weekend hours. And could you do less? Absolutely. But wouldn't you rather have more client base and more income coming in for when you do go full-time freelance?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thinking about the timeline and setting that up of how long is this going to last? I think once you have your financial numbers and you have what your safety net you want it to be, come up with a plan. If some people, I think, have a date in mind where I want to leave my job by, July or whatever month it is. And so work backwards from that of, okay, by July I want to leave. So by end of May, June, maybe I want to start pitching by then. So what does that mean for when I want to have my portfolio built? If I want to do that before I pitch, how much through the course are you? For our
Well, and when you
CCA
say
students, at least, I should
yeah,
say.
when you say start pitching by then, you mean start really ramping up your pitching for a
Exactly.
full-time client
For
base.
a full-time
Yeah, you
job.
should obviously
Exactly.
always be pitching, but start ramping it
Yeah.
up. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
But so checking off the milestones that you still need to complete. And again, for everyone, that's different. If you are just digging in and you haven't, done any training yet, then obviously that might be a longer runway that you need to get up and ramp up your skills and start pitching and building your portfolio and whatnot. But it also depends on you and how many hours you feel like you can put in addition to your full time job. Some people have just maybe more time in the day. They don't have kids maybe, or they, they truly leave their full-time job at 5 p.m. and have hours in the evening. For every person, it's going to be very individual in terms of the amount of time that they have in a day to work, and then how much time they need to ramp up to hit the milestones that they want and need to hit
Mhm.
to get to that point.
Well, and those milestones will be personal for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to set expectations that you're not going to get to the point of full of full-time freelance income before you leave your full-time job. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be working 40 hours a week at your full-time job and 40 hours a week at your freelance. If that's your goal, if you're like, I have to know that I have 40 hours of work at freelance before I can quit, it's not realistic. Working,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're what, a 22-year-old trader on Wall Street, um, they all like burn out and crash into walls. I don't know. I watched Wolf of Wall Street. That's my intimate knowledge of the industry. But you're not going to get to the point that you're making your full-time income as a freelancer before you leave your full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not.
Everyone hits that point of like, I really want to take the leap, but I'm not where I want to be. And I think that's where there is that leap of faith, if you will, of I know I have clients, I already have some work, I need more hours in my day to be able to take on more freelance projects. So
Mm-hmm.
I think assessing when you're at that period, hopefully, you've built out your safety net, you've built out your plan. That's part of
Mm-hmm.
what the safety net's for, is to kind of bridge that gap, if you will, which it shouldn't be a large gap. I think if you go all in, yeah, that's a large gap if you
Mm-hmm.
just quit cold turkey and have nothing set up. But if you've done all the work, you have some clients, you've been pitching, you've started really ramping up your pitching in the past, month or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, if you decide, okay, now I'm going to leave, you already have at least a solid base. Maybe you have full on part-time work. Maybe it's a little more than part-time work at that point. You can really start building it then to the full-time level that you want it.
Yeah. Well, and we talk about this concept of a leap of faith. And I almost don't even want to call it a leap, like a step in a new
Yeah.
direction. But when we talk about leap of faith, it's not like you're putting faith in a higher power or you're hoping that clients magically come through to you. It's putting faith in the fact that you will do the work that you need to do. There is no mystery as to how clients come to you. Absolutely no mystery. Yes, every once in a while you might meet a friend who has a friend that needs copywriting. That's great, but that's also not a mystery because you told your friend that you're a copywriter and they
Mm-hmm.
said, "Oh, I have a friend." There's no mystery. You are 100% in control of how many clients you have and how much income you have. And you stay in control, or I should say, you control it by telling people that you are a copywriter, getting the words out, getting the word out there, pitching regularly. You guys know that there doesn't need to be any feast or famine, or there don't need to be dry spells. Those things come up when you stop pitching. So make a plan to be pitching consistently. And if you're starting to get nervous about work coming in, then redirect those nerves to taking action and pitching regularly. And I mean, in the CCA we have all kinds of tactics for you to get the word out, participate in Facebook groups and all that kind of thing. But I think the idea of taking a leap of faith, or a step of faith, is the idea that I'm just going to do it and I'm going to hope that the higher powers provide me clients. And that's not how it works at all. It's you providing yourself with clients by taking the actions that bring you clients. And I don't know about you guys, but that makes me feel so much better. I would rather know that it's on me to control the income that I have and the work that I have coming in, versus like waking up every day and crossing my fingers and hoping that, I don't know, clients drop out of the sky or something like that. But I think that can be something that we forget as we think about, like, oh, I'm going to do this, I hope it all works out okay. It will work out okay, if you make it work out okay, if you
Mhm.
do the things that you know that you need to do, if you make them a priority on your schedule, if you set time aside every single day to do the things that you know that you need to do to build your business. And I think that there, I think that there are really kind of two different people in the world. And Kate, I'm actually curious as to which one you are. Or not two, but you know what I mean? I mean, it's so binary, but because I think it can differ depending how people are feeling. But I think there's some people when they're in an emergency, they're spurred to, and not even an emergency, but in difficult times, they're spurred to action. And there's some people that who are in a difficult time and they kind of like put their head under the blankets and stay in bed. And in one way, being freelance and being the person who has to make sure that money can come in, yes, you might spend a morning with your blanket over your head, but you don't have the luxury to do that for very long. Because if you don't make that money come in, if you don't take the actions that are going to make that money come in, you're not going to be freelance for long, right? Or you're not going to have that lovely house for long. To take it to extremes, it's on you to take the action.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm very motivated by. I think I'm definitely the let's let's do more than we need to do. And I think there are a lot of folks we've seen in the CCA group. It's the same way of like, oh, I know if I leave my full time job, I'll be like it's now like I've got to. We've got there's no other option. There's that's plan A, and you
Mm-hmm.
want to make plan A work versus go to plan B, then
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna work your tush
Yeah.
off.
Quite candidly, I default to wanting to put my head under the blanket and
Really?
ignore the rest of the world.
Hmm.
Yes, I absolutely do. And that might be a surprise because I built a successful copywriting career and successful freelance business. I built this company and we continue to build it. Um, but so for anybody who's out there who's like, ooh, I like to just put my head in the sand, I totally get that. The difference for me is that I feel it and I might even give in to like putting my head under the blanket for a little while, maybe an hour or whatever. Uh, but I also know that it's the more that you stay in your anxiety, the more
The
that
worse it gets.
the worse it gets, right? The worse it gets. You should absolutely let yourself feel it. There's no point in trying to suppress it, but staying in your anxiety doesn't do anything. It just keeps it there. Whereas when you take action, when you do things that will help that anxiety to abate. Oh, I'm worried I'm not going to have enough money this month. Okay, well, when you take action by, say, pitching some clients, by reaching out to following up on previous pitches, all that kind of stuff, that is how anxiety actually starts to decrease. And if you need
Mm-hmm.
to, we talk about this a lot, if we need to take absurdly small actions until they start to kind of build on each other, absurdly small things, things that don't freak you out. But taking that action is what helps deal with that anxiety. And when you're working for yourself, no matter what you're doing, there may be some days where all of a sudden you go, oh my God, it's just me. I'm the only one who's making sure money is coming in. Maybe you're not just you, but it can be, and I'm not a naturally anxious person, but it can be every once in a while anxiety inducing. So not to go off, I apologize for going off on a tangent 5 minutes after I took us off on this tangent, but I hope that that is at least helpful for you because there's a chance that that anxiety might come up. But
Yeah.
anyway, back to the topic, being that you are in control of how many clients come in. It's not a leap of faith, or if it is, it's a step of faith in yourself that you will do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would recommend going through and everything in this episode, make a checklist of things that you know you need to do before you make that transition. And again, it should be, I love that idea of a step of it being not this huge, huge, huge transition. It's you've built it up to the point where it's just like a slow turn into you're leaning more into the copywriting than you were before. So, making that list, have you ramped up pitching? We say 5 a day for if you want to be full time. So maybe you get to that point when you're close to kind of when you're planning on quitting. Um, you've built up your safety net. You've taken a look at your financials. You know exactly how many, or roughly, I should say, not very exactly, but roughly how many clients or projects that you would need to do each month to hit your numbers. Maybe you have a date in mind that you've picked. You have built your portfolio. You have practiced. You have some spec pieces, or maybe you even have a few clients. Hopefully, at this point, because you've already been pitching and you've started pitching. I would definitely say, it's much easier to take that step, and it's more of a step when you have a few clients that you've worked with and that you can repitch once you're full time and let them know that you're full time at that point. That's a great time to say, hey, I actually, just so I have more availability now, and pitch them whatever project. But it's a good excuse to follow up with everyone that you've worked with in the past. Colleagues that you've worked with, I would recommend putting that on your list to let colleagues know that you've made this transition. Post it on LinkedIn, switch your LinkedIn if that's not something you've already done. Because I know a lot of people, if they have a full-time job, kind of wait to do that. So put that first thing on your list once you've given your notice. Okay, let's get the LinkedIn freshened up. And so make yourself that checklist of all the things you need to do, so that when you do take that step, it feels very natural, and it's not, it says, okay, this is what I'm doing. And you go into your office the next day and you have what you're going to do. You're going to send some more pitches. Maybe you have a project that you need to work on that's in whatever phase. Maybe you have some kickoff calls, and it's a very seamless, as much as it can be, transition.
I love that. How much less scary is it when after you quit your job, you come to your desk and you're not sitting there going, what do I do now? It's
Yeah.
You've already made yourself a
You already
plan
got work.
for exactly what you've already got work to do, and you've already made yourself a plan for
Mhm.
exactly when you're going to pitch, what time you're going to pitch, how many pitches you're going to send out. That will take so much of the pressure off.
Mhm.
One thing I do want to make sure to mention, put on your checklist, is your health insurance. Right?
Yeah.
If you were at a full-time job, and not every full-time job, and this is mostly for people in the States. I know we have students from all over the world and listening from all over the world. But what is your health insurance going to be? I know that some people are like, well, I don't want to quit my job because I have health insurance. Yeah, but they pay you less because they also cover
Mhm.
your health insurance. It's not like you're leaving. That's all these benefits at companies, like, oh, well, we offer health insurance, and we offer 401k matching, and we offer vacation time, and it's all, yeah, all of these are quote unquote their benefits, but they've added these in because they offset you by not paying you more.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
when you are not working at a company and you're working for yourself, and you are charging more, and you are making more per hour, or whatever it works out to be, per week, per month, whatever, you can easily afford to pay your own health insurance, or open your own 401k, or
401k. And
you
the
know
benefits are so much better for 401k for
yes,
solo. I'm
yes,
telling you. Big proponent. We'll
yeah.
link to in the show notes. We have a whole episode on benefits. So we'll link to that there.
Yeah, and your health insurance is deductible,
Yeah.
which helps offset that a lot. So if you're thinking, well, yeah, but the quote unquote benefits are that they turn into golden handcuffs. Well, I can't leave because I have great benefits. I can't leave because I have vacation time. I can't leave. You want you in like I want to go into it completely because we have a whole other episode. But if you want that stuff, you can have that
Build it
stuff
in.
as a freelancer. Build it in.
Do that as part of your financial audit, though. That all of that, vacation time, if it's, you have an hourly rate, I assume, with your salary, you can figure that out. So with the amount of vacation time that they give you, what does that equate to? And what do you need to make then to give yourself that same amount of vacation time? That should all be part of your financial breakdown, so that you can really see it and demystify it. So to your point, it doesn't feel like handcuffs at that point. It feels a much more tangible and real of, oh, I can do, here's how I can do this, versus just kind of not wanting to, kind of putting blinders on and saying, well, this is just easy, and this is so much easier. But it's not necessarily, once you just do the math and do it out and actually see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And just a little reminder, if you have been working freelance or taking freelance clients, you should already have this set up, but you need to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you have a separate business checking account. And it doesn't have to be labeled a business checking account, but it
Mm-hmm.
has to be a separate, most banks or online banks too will let you just open a second checking account. No problem with it. It takes a couple of minutes, but you want to set it up so you have a separate one from your personal one. So it's very easy to track what money is coming in, and any business expenses come out of that checking account, not your personal checking account. It's just going to make it so much easier come tax time for you, or if you hire a bookkeeper, which you will be able to afford hiring a bookkeeper, it'll just make it so much easier to get all that stuff done toward the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're on quarterly taxes, mostly for people in the States. But again, talk to your tax preparation professional, because I am not one. I can just tell you what works
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kate, anything else before we want to wrap up?
No, just to tack onto the tax piece, because I know that's
Mm.
another big reason why people don't make this
Oh,
transition.
yes.
It's not as hard as I think. It's, again, just give yourself the information. We'll link to a bunch of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just taking a little bit of time to realize, oh, okay, this is all it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this big, audacious, terrible, hard thing. If I can do it, I'm telling you, not that I'm not a smart individual, but if I can do it,
Mm-hmm.
and Nicki can do it, so can you.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely mean that. That should not be a reason
Yeah.
to not look into this if this is a direction you want or inclined to go, because yes, your business takes out taxes, but it's not easier. I promise it's not that much more difficult in any way
Yeah.
to be a freelancer.
Yeah,
It really
well,
is not.
and to that end too, we do sometimes hear people saying, "Well, I don't want to go freelance because I don't want to pay all those taxes." You're already
Right.
paying
Yeah.
all of those taxes. Believe me, your company is just taking them out of your salary before they're in your paycheck. You're still paying, and especially if you live in the States, you're still paying. Well, actually, depending on what country you're in, but you're still paying all of those taxes. Just when you're working for a company, they take it out before you see it in your paycheck. And when you're working for yourself, it's on you to take it out and pay the government. But it's not like going freelance means you're paying a ton more taxes. Like in the States, yeah, you pay self-employment tax, but that's because you don't have a company taking out Social Security tax and all those other taxes. So it all balances out. It's not, and then plus two, when you're
You're paid
freelance,
more.
yes, exactly. Plus two, when you're freelance, you make more money and you have business deductions. Now, really going down this road, you talk to a tax preparation professional, but there can be things like the space of your office can be deducted from your talk to a tax preparation professional, but all kinds of the cost of your computer if you're working from home, printer,
If you bought Nicki's book,
yeah,
Copywriting Strategies, which we'll link to, just saying, but that's a deduction. That's a
that is a
really great
deduction.
deduction.
Yeah, buy my book, it's a deduction.
Yeah, it is. Should have been the thing.
Dang it. But yeah, it's go into it with a plan, because as much as it's like, oh, do I dare to do this? I'm dreaming of this. Do I dare to do this? Because it feels there's a lot of emotions around it, right? Because it's something you're dreaming of doing. But the fact of the matter is that it is 100% possible. All you have to do is just follow a series of steps. And there is unfortunately no magical date when it will be the perfect time to quit your full-time job. As someone who has quit multiple full-time jobs, usually to go freelance, sometimes to go to contract, but usually to go freelance, there is always that moment of half excitement, half fear, because you're doing what you want to do, but at the same time, this is really scary because I'm doing what I want to do. There's no perfect day to quit your job, but going back to the beginning of this episode, take notes, put together a plan for yourself. When you've built up a good client base of in your part-time freelancing, when you have set aside some money, when you know how much you need to make each month, when you are prepared with your business accounts and you know what you're going to do for health insurance and all those kinds of things, and you put together a schedule for when you're going to pitch and when you're going to do and how you're going to do your outreach.
You have a system for tracking, which
It's all,
CCA students you have.
you've got all that. When you have that, that is when you can know that you're ready to move out. There's no perfect time, but that will be a good indicator of the time is right around now. Yeah, this moment.
Not right
It
now.
was just,
Yeah.
it was that moment right there. You missed it. No, just
Catch
kidding.
it.
Yes, no, not literally. You know what I mean. You guys are smart. Anyway. We hope that this was helpful. If you are thinking of leaving a full-time job and heading into freelance, let us know. Check in with us. Let us know how it goes. Always love to hear stories from students and listeners, and let us know if this was helpful. We certainly always aim to please. And of course, with that, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss any tips, tools, or tactics for copywriters by clicking subscribe right now. And of course, you can always find us over at filthyrichriter.com. We'll see you next time.